This video is intended to describe a lightblade talisman named Empowerment. Joining me today will be my whimsical stick figure chakra map for many reference guide Q to the chakra calm stimulation, as well as this lovely golden leather which will be installed after this video is fully notarized. So getting right into the lightblade structure, seen right here is the primary blade band of the primary emanation, which would be very much appropriate for the archetypal designation of Empowerment. Going into this lateral band of transmutation, going up the sides, and to this lateral band containing its own little sub-circuit, to the apex band up here. And the reason I mention this first is that the design of the entire vibratory output of this device is perpetually running through a primary sequence of what vaguely resembles a figure 8 to be perpetual recirculated energetic momentum, particularly to contain and govern the excess overture of the energy to recirculate it with maximum efficiency, and to, of course, with all these other exotic frequencies that make it a very high yield talisman, redirect and contain the current for maximum efficiency, like I just mentioned. So, of course, that's important to notarize and to, of course, express that in the dissertation as a preface before I go further. So I'll go ahead and start with the transmutation blade band scaffolding seen laterally like so, and up the sides and lateral right here to be its own transmutation of energy subcircuit, which will play a very pivotal role in efficiency for this extremely high yield ambitious construct. Starting off with smoky quartz to be a strong grounder of all excess energy through the root chakra into the earth stars, into the earth meridian matrix for reprocessing, in tandem with hematite, a iron-based hematoid metal-based mineral that is very, very effective for firmly taking all stray radial energies and firmly grounding it through the root chakra into the earth stars, into the earth meridian matrix for reprocessing. So the two in tandem is what is deemed the transmutation ratio to encourage a very strong high grounding of excess energy and, of course, transmuting negativity into positivity by firmly grounding all the excess energy of one's personal energy field into Mother Earth for two-way energetic dialysis and very rapid grounding capacity. And the reason I mention that first is that before I discuss the exotic high-yield primary blade band, this will be grounded straight into this transmutation ratio before it completes to the apex band to have a very powerful grounding aspect of this entire high-frequency yield to A, of course, make the magic real, bring into tangible range of the 3D Earth resonance, and, of course, also work as another lovely way to make it very comfortable and to be its own purification background for the entirety of the vibratory output's designation, which is that of empowerment, to empower the recipient to the highest maximum possible with this construct. And so I'll go ahead and discuss the apex band right here, where eventually the necklace will be installed right here for functionality's sake, starting off with clear quartz to be a neutral accelerant of energy, going into blue sapphire. Blue sapphire is a lovely window-mental 5th and 6th chakra stimulant of virtually unsurpassed stimulation in the mineral kingdom, but particularly with royal notarizations of the high blue emanation of the corundum, which is oftentimes a 8, 8.5, or 9 in the hardness scale, which means it has a very dense atomical structure of the blue ray. Hence, it's a classic precious stone of royal antiquity and great esoteric utilization. To be a fantastic higher truth aspect right there, which is very empowering. So obviously, the crystalline structure of this entire device is developed to be very empowering. That's pretty self-evident at this point. Then clear quartz to be a neutral accelerant into its red ray cousin of notoriety, ruby. Ruby is the quintessential root chakra stimulant in the mineral kingdom of zest for life, gusto, virtually unsurpassed in its extreme strength of root chakra stimulation, which is the foundation for the physical self's well-being. So the aspect of the ruby and sapphire in tandem make for a very powerful dynamic complementary ignition sequence at the very apex, which when worn, of course, runs laterally with the human body to be an exhaust point, so to speak, of the excess energy in alignment with the chakra column, when of course it's designed to lay flat like so when worn, because it's a talisman. So that'd just be the primary blade band scaffolding of this section. Now for the true main event of what definitely makes it a very high yield exotic frequency generator would be this golden ray emanation seen right here. That would be a very high yield golden ray emanation, starting off with rutilated quartz, which is actually clear quartz with bands of golden root tile in the structure to make a massive super intensification of whatever frequency ambient is next to it. Cerulean quartz is very intensive accelerant of energies. Going into the lovely legendary Libyan gold tektite, seen as well right here in a heavier dose. Libyan gold tektite is a very famous, actually not quite as famous as it should be, gold ray stimulant utilized by the pharaohs of old. This particular frequency was used as scarab beetles to be carved into a scarab beetle for the Magi god king, the pharaohs of old in ancient Egypt, to have a very high yield gold ray emanation to be very indicative of the badge of their office. So it was a very cool thing to utilize a particular crystal for the pharaohs, the Magi god kings, and their office to have this particular frequency. So this very powerful golden ray emanation seen right here as the primary blade band as well is a very powerful stimulation to the sacrum and solar plexus. That'd be high fire energy, cardinal fire, but as well as the golden ray of illumination is so empowering, it's so enlightening that it actually stimulates the entire chakra column, thereby making it a tremendous empowering dharmic accelerant to one's connection to creation through their highest intention, burning off the dross that would basically interfere with one's connection to their intention, their will, to creation. And to further augment that particular trajectory of energy would also be the golden healer quartz seen right here. Golden healer quartz is a fantastic high heart gold white light source stimulant that connects one to the emanation's attunement to the source of creation. So in a metaphysical endeavor, that's pretty self-evidently advantageous. Then the combination goes into Libyan gold tektite once again, then going into rutilated quartz, Libyan gold tektite, golden healer quartz, and so on till it completes its sequence grounded into the transmutation ratio to provide a very grounding scaffolding to, of course, encourage the direction of this energy by nature into the tangible range to make the magic real. So that right there will be the very high yield emanation, which Libyan gold tektite, particularly in bead format, is quite rare and very hard to get a hold of. So whenever these, of course, are augmented into a subcircuit, a Libyan gold tektite, it makes for a very dynamic, intensive, empowering device. So that'd be the primary blade band scaffolding discussed as a closed-loop reactive circuit before I discuss the exotic components. So, before I continue further, all these other frequencies are terminated to a central primary wire consisting of copper, brass, and silver spooled together to be the main vein of the construct. So all the other frequencies mentioned right now are of course grounded into this primary wire to generate vibrational compound interest of the entire vibratory output. Think of it like organs for this crystalline entity before us in this dissertation. So every single thing mentioned right here, of course, will be under one frequency emanation as a whole, as a emanation. Starting off with the apex right here is a very dynamic explosive crystal named zincite, but luckily of the blue ray. So zincite is the most impactful, explosively activating lower 3 chakra stimulant that is quite empowering. And so this particular frequency has a stimulation to the lower 3 chakras, almost unrivaled in the mineral kingdom for its very dynamic, explosive activation that'd be very empowering to one's highest sovereign capacity. Very complementary to the Libyan gold tektite, which of course was utilized by the sovereigns of ancient Egypt for a good reason. So then it goes into fulgurite right here, which is actually petrified lightning. That's quite literally lightning striking sand to actually make a crystalline format, which is the power of lightning terminated to a very reactive cell apparatus. So fulgurite was a shamanic tool classically utilized by First Nation shamans to intensify their prayers by resonating with lightning frequency power to intensify their magic or their medicine to the highest capacity. As well as fulgurite, since it's the power of lightning, is quite the tremendous full light body stimulant in its own right to activate the entire energy field with lightning force. But luckily, with all these subroutines and grounding and buffers of this frequency, you get the most out of it with the grounded containment without too much overture on the system. That's why the transmutation ratio is so critical to notarize even thrice more times, probably. Then, like I mentioned, a large showcase specimen of Libyan gold tektite, much like the bead right here, which is the stone of the pharaohs and is a very powerful dharmic accelerant, which I jokingly refer to as goldavite because I consider it a gold ray cosmic oriented frequency of illumination of gold white light that is very potent and powerful. So then speaking of moldavite, here's moldavite right here, a small little dose, see quite the famous green ray dharmic accelerant of the heart chakras configuration to high source alignment, and a very, very powerful stone of synchronicity, magic, and one's true self manifestation into reality. So it's a great stone for synchronicity agents of the highest divine timeline or dharmic template to keep one in alignment with one's highest truth as they continue their journey on self-discovery, with the internal journey and external journey mimicking the manifestation in 3D. Then right here is black tektite, which is a product of nickel iron meteorite seen right here. Black tektite, since it carries the extraterrestrial cosmic jolt of entry into our world through the stars, quite literally from this guy right next to it, from the nickel iron meteorite, it carries that extraterrestrial jolt of entry of the heavens entering Earth, which is very, very advantageous for a black ray crystal to have a very strong vibratory threshold increase. Most importantly, from the Earth stars up. So it's a very powerful fortification of the vibratory threshold to raise vibrations, but luckily from a very black ray ground up situation. So that's quite the staple in virtually all light tech, no matter what designation, for just general, strong, grounded vibratory threshold increase. Then right here with the mother rock of exactly this black tektite is nickel iron meteorite, which actually is a piece of metal that comes from space, which is very neat. So obviously it has the aspects of iron, which makes it a very strong grounding of frequency into the tangible range through the Earth stars to be a very resonant frequency with Earth, but except of course it's not from our terrestrial center. So it carries a very strong induction of higher frequency energy as well, because it literally is a space metal that landed on Earth. Then above that would be turquoise, seen right here, quite the famous stone that's favored of millions for thousands of years for a good reason. Turquoise is a great fifth chakra stimulant, that of wholeness of earth, fire, water, and wind through one focus. So it can be considered a great shamanic tool by First Nation tribes. Actually, I won't get into it because the dissertation of turquoise's legendary esoteric attributes are quite vast across the world, and that'd take its own 10-minute dissertation probably by itself. But even though turquoise in practical standard is also, of course, a great product generator to be in one's wholeness and truth, which is, of course, very empowering. Then over here is a lovely piece of Larimar, which makes for a great antithesis to the high gold yield to bring a very soothing radial frequency energy of the water and the fire spectrums of the 5th and 6th chakra activation to have an oasis of calm generation with this much empowering concentration. So it's kind of a nice little antithesis contingency seen right here to keep the calm inner self in the very much the witness self perspective through the entirety of the vibratory threshold at large. Then above that right here would be Himalayan golden azestolite, which is a very fantastic gold-white light source alignment frequency as well, much like golden healer quartz. So they work well in tandem to be a very clean, straight shot to the source attunement to the gold-white light of the high heart, connecting to the quantum connection to the heart of creation. To, of course, be a very powerful agent to sorcery, I guess, as a joke I employ pretty often. So that, of course, keeps one's golden ray of illumination very highly attuned to the source of creation. But so, of course, like I mentioned, golden healer quartz and Himalayan golden zestolite work fantastic together in tandem to be a very powerful gold-white light source emanation alignment to the heart of creation, which in vibrational engineering purposes is quite admirable and self-evidently amazing, like I said before. Then, to be a very strong empowerment agent as well, would be ruby in a larger dose, seen right here. So ruby, of course, is the quintessential red ray root chakra stimulant of royal antiquity and magic utilization quite across the world, with its great legendary status that's basically been deified in its own right. So ruby being a lovely corundum, the hardest pretty much crystal of the red ray, makes the root chakra emanate at the highest octave, the zest for life, and the in-the-body experience. So ruby is a very empowering frequency that is very, very well utilized here for the purpose of the construct to have a lot of confidence and gusto for life, basically, and adventurism, all kinds of things like that. So I'll be moving on to this section right here, which eventually this leather hood will be installed like so. And a much more aesthetic pleasing center, of course. So before I discuss the components that are under the hood, I'll discuss the mechanism of the leather hood seen right here, which is far more than decorative. So the aspect of the gold leather, of course, works as another gold ray color therapy vibrational accelerant of the entire emanation to have the gold ray pitch be a very high focus of the energy, which is the whole designation of golden ray illumination. And also, it works to protect all these subtle stones that have been stacked like so in this entire sequence, and as well as when this, of course, is installed, it will work as an insulation agent to ensure that the energies, I'm going to try and make it behave so I can talk about it properly. Let's see here. Okay, so the energies right here, when it's insulated, of course, condenses the energy through the primary blade band and the apex band, so you mitigate loose energies from this entire section right here to further condense the circuitry of intensifying the octave between the primary blade band as well as the apex band in one sequential circuit. And also, last, I guess, but kind of least, it also, when it's it's aesthetically pleasing when it's installed correctly, to be a very finished construct, basically, too. But it is far more than aesthetics. Actually, is indeed functional. So speaking of the hood, so under the hood right here is a lovely piece of black jet seen right here. Black jet was a classic carbon-based transmuter of negativity into positivity, much like smoky quartz, utilized by the druids of old, actually. That was a great old school antithesis for black magic, was utilized famously for. So it's a very good neutralizer of negativity into positivity by, once again, firmly transmuting and grounding firmly into the earth any energies that are basically impure, kind of like a charcoal filter in that capacity in a vibrational sense. Then next to that will be a master healer I employ quite religiously named Star Argonite. Star Argonite is a fantastic calcium-based full light body stimulant from the bottom to top and works to dismantle any patterns of dis-ease through the entire chakra column, and it perpetuates any kind of clearing required to have a fully illuminated light body in the entire structure and the physical conscious self. Then next to that would be golden topaz seen down here. Golden topaz is another precious stone of notoriety. Particularly the gold ray is another very powerful solar plexus stimulant to one's divine will, connection to the realm of one's creativity, as well as it being a pink ray carrier of crystalline frequency as well, has a nice little love receptivity in this, basically in the gold ray. So it could be kind of considered a lovely third and fourth high heart chakra stimulant of further manifestation. Then right here will be ruby and zoisite, which once again, ruby, of course, like I've mentioned thrice, is the tremendous root chakra stimulant of great notoriety. Then the green zoisite right here is also a fantastic heart-mind coherence agent. So when you have the trifecta of the root stimulation of legendary means, naturally grown into the zoisite, which is a very fantastic heart-mind coherence agent, it works for a truly dynamic, empowering, most importantly, configuration to one's highest self, authentic self, manifested into reality. Then right here is amber. Though not technically a mineral, it has been a crystalline ally utilized for millennia as well, and quite the famous stone of abundance, as well as it makes for a fantastic sunny disposition, purification of negativity into positivity, much like smoky quartz, but through much more a enlightening, joyful transmutation agent. And also a classic stone of abundance that right too, because if it turns negativity into positivity, you feel better. Obviously your vibration projects into reality and good things happen. Cause and effect, I guess they're right there. Okay. Then right here, another amazing crystal I utilize quite frequently, particularly in tandem with the star argonite right here, is seraphinite. A green ray crystal named after the seraphim archangels is a fantastic full light body stimulant as well, and just like star argonite, works in very, very adamantly to dismantle any configurations in the energy body that be patterns of dis-ease that would be impeding one's light body in full healing and manifestation into the earth realm. So the two in tandem, of course, are quite prolifically utilized together for the same stimulation pathway to get the most vibrational compound interest out of the high yield of these two healing master healers in tandem. Then the very apex right here would be a lovely bolt of black tourmalated quartz, which actually has a clear quartz structure with black tourmaline, another crystal that's quite in vogue for being a purifier of negativity into positivity by once again grounding the energy through the root chakra into the earth and then into the earth stars for consistent energetic dialysis. But the clear quartz also makes for its own natural ambient intensification of the black tourmaline, which makes it a very appropriate apex crystal at the very top when worn to be a radial 360-degree sphere to be a further etheric vacuum cleaner, I guess you could say, to put my analogies into maximum employment. So that would be the entire crystalline structure besides the selenites mentioned thus far, and the kyanites, which I do save for last intentionally. So by the time I've spoken for 20 minutes straight in this crystalline rant, the selenites play a critical role I usually save for the capstone for this purpose. So upon this 20 minutes of discussing all these exotic crystals in one contained circuit, the selenites have a very special agent, or basically function in this entire device. So selenite by itself is a very fantastic 6th, 7th, 8th non-physical chakra stimulant all back to one's godhead or higher self connection, which is a very powerful key to the conscious self, to the higher self in tandem, and through that high frequency induction also works to burn off stagnant energies that through the entire energy field for high divine alignment. So by itself it's quite the master healer, but where it truly shines in any given spirit tool that comes into existence through my hands is the aspect of taking this entire closed loop circuit. It can purify all of these crystals, it can amplify or intensify, but perhaps most importantly bring equilibrium and harmonization to the entire group of crystals in one frequency pitch. So that truly triumphant trifecta of the purification of all these crystals, the amplification, and the harmonization is always the ground for any given truly high-performing spirit tool. Then next to that would be black kyanite and blue kyanite. So black kyanite, so before I continue further, the kyanite spectrums are the most rapid transfers of energy to the mineral kingdom, hence I'll be using my pen to illustrate this with my whimsical stick figure chakra map. So the black kyanite transfers energy so quickly through the root chakra into the earth stars at a very quick rate that it can be considered a surge protector to ensure the frequency pitch at large is grounding so quickly into the earth that it also works as a lovely layer of etheric Teflon to further transmute the energy and direct it into the earth for consistent reprocessing that would be very hard for, or very difficult I should say, for lower, lesser frequencies not of one's highest self to maintain in the field with such a high transfer rate and basically rebuffering, refreshing the energy so quickly. Then in tandem with the blue kyanite to be a tremendous 6th chakra of the right and left hemispheres alignment to the highest configuration to mitigate the cross chatter that would interfere the awakened third eye, which is the right, left brain, whole brain thinking, as well as being a tremendous connection point to communication. So it's very, very practical and actually useful for the vocation of the recipient to have very rapid transfer of this energy for whomever she is in contact with her vast travels. As well as them in tandem, black kyanite, blue kyanite work together very quickly to redirect and buffer energy so rapidly that lesser frequencies would have a very hard time maintaining in the field to get stuck or stagnant with such a fast refresh rate of the ambitious energy seen before us. So that would be actually surprisingly fast in nearly 23 minutes of this entire dissertation. So, as a quick little capstone of this entire construct of empowerment, is developed to be a rather ambitious high gold ray of illumination structure device with many different supporting elements to be just that, to be a very empowering construct to perhaps make a pharaoh jealous, God willing. To make a pharaoh blush is the goal of these constructs that have passed into my hands in distribution so far, because they are very high yield, ambitious frequency generators that make very, very powerful golden ray of illumination stimulation. That, of course, mentioned, there's many different variables that actually have a full light body activation capacity that have been contained in this little wearable unit. That would be the empowerment. So, like I mentioned thrice, this is, of course, a device that's developed to be very empowering to the entire chakra calm as one follows their path in connection to their source creation to be a talisman of great gold white light source emanation power of antiquity, basically, in that capacity. Well, 1,000 blessings, and may the force be with us all.